Hi YouTube, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Dani. I am a feminine magnetism and embodiment coach, and I run women's circles. And today's video is on the topic of women's circles because I am very passionate about running women's circles, and I am wanting to reach a wider audience with them because I feel that women's circles are so healing, and there's just so much magic that unfolds in circle. And I really truly believe that every single woman on this planet needs a woman's circle, and it's an ancient tradition that's been lost in our modern world, particularly in the Western world. And I really feel passionate to bring them back and make them more mainstream and more accessible to people. If you're interested in learning more, I really invite you to check out my links below. I run the Divine Feminine Circle, and currently for the past 8 months or so I've been running in-person circles in Melbourne, where I live, Melbourne, Australia. However, the other month I decided to run an online women's circle, and it was amazing. It was so much fun. We manifested with the new moon, and it's something that, because that event went really well, I really want to start running it every month and making it a frequent, regular thing. And so if you're interested in joining my next event online on the 16th of June, so you can check out the link in my description below, and it's completely free. So if you just want to get a taste of like what actually happens in Women's Circle, it's a free event. You've got nothing to lose, and I guarantee that you're going to have so much fun. So register to attend, and I'd love to see you there. Let's get into today's video. So the first thing I want to talk about is, what is a woman's circle? So a woman's circle is a sacred space, you could say, where the women gather and we sit in circle, as you can imagine, where the women, each and every single woman in the circle, feels safe, seen, heard, loved, and witnessed. And it's a space where there's no judgment, there's no expectation, no pressure to do anything or to say anything or share anything. It's a completely safe space to really just be. That's kind of an unfamiliar thing in our world, because the world that we live in at the moment, we're often measuring our success by what we do and what we accomplish and how much we achieve. And a women's circle is almost the opposite of that, because there's nothing to do, there's nothing to achieve. It's really about just being present in the moment and being seen in your authenticity, to just kind of peel back the layers of the ego, peel back all the masks that we wear every day, whether you're a boss or you're a flight attendant or you work at a bakery. It doesn't really matter. Like, all of that is left out of the door when you enter a circle. And it's really about just being met at the soul level. Like, who are you really? Without your job title, without your degrees or your professions or your credentials, like, who are you? And what does that part of you have to say? What does that part of you want to share? How does that part of you feel? And knowing that all of you, whether it's your anger or your sadness or your excitement and your joy, like every facet of you is welcome. Every single time I run one of these circles, I always have a different mix of women, new faces. Some women, it's their first time coming to circle, and some women, you know, they're regulars, they come all the time. And it's just so beautiful to witness women supporting women, and women celebrating women, and women not judging other women, or there's no comparing ourselves to our sister sitting next to us. It's everyone in the circle is seen as valuable, as wise, and there's no trying to fix someone or change someone or compete with someone. Like, all of that is just left outside of the door, and it's just a safe space to just take a deep breath and just come as you are and be seen and loved in all of that. So that's why I absolutely love women's circles, and I truly believe like every single woman could benefit by having one, just that safe space to just be and not have to do and achieve, and just like really just be raw and held in that. Often at the beginning of each circle I go around and I ask people like, why did you come? And one of the main reasons I hear from like 90% of attendees is that they long for connection. Even though we're so connected online through social media, people are starving for real connection, to feel seen and heard, and to really just not show the best versions of themselves and see that on the online social media world, and really just like connect with people without all of that, without all of the masks and the filters. It's like just real connection, genuine connection, authentic connection. And I see that so many women are like starving for that, and that's why they're brought to circle. You might be wondering what actually happens in circles. I'm a facilitator, so I run the circles, I organize the space, I create a beautiful altar in the middle, so I decorate it with crystals and flowers, and whoever's running the space can set up the altar how they like. And some circles may be held indoors, which I do. I would love to hold outdoor circles, which some women do. However, just because I'm in Melbourne, the weather is very temperamental, so I feel a little bit scared holding an outdoor event. If I lived in another location, maybe if I was living in Dubai like I used to, I would have held it outside, because it's just beautiful to connect to nature. Because I guess one of the main things we do when women come together is we connect to our feminine energy. And I talk a lot about feminine energy and masculine energy on my vlog, because as a coach that works with feminine energy, I help women connect to their feminine, which when I'm talking about feminine energy, I'm not talking about women, I'm talking about the energy that's within men and women. However, if you were born a woman, usually you possess more of a dominance in feminine energy. So sitting in your feminine, it will feel more relaxing to you and more natural, and that energy looks like being energy, it looks like receptivity, it looks like intuition, creativity, softness, nurturing. All of these traits are feminine. And that's basically what Circle is about. It's about connecting to the feminine energy. So if you are a woman that tends to be in your head a lot, you're always like, you know, you work in maybe a corporate environment and you're always in your head and working with logic, it can be really nice to join a woman's circle just purely for the fact of reconnecting to your feminine and just dropping down into the body and into your heart and into your womb, and just like really anchoring into the present moment. So Circle can be really great for that. Getting back to my point, and as a facilitator, I normally will choose a theme for the evening. So because I feel very inclined to run my circles with the moon phases, so I will run on the full moon. I will see what sign the full moon is in, based on the zodiac chart, and then I will come up with a theme for the evening, and I will create all these activities like journaling, we do meditations, we do kind of partner work, and we do sharing circles, sometimes burning rituals. We do all these different activities which I'll create and invite the women to participate in. And Circle is really because it is such a safe space, there's no expectation that you do all the activities. Like, you are free to do what you feel called to do. There's no pressure to do everything that the facilitator asks you to do. Women's circles go back many centuries, and they weren't even always just purely women's circles. Circles have been around in many ancient traditions for the whole community to gather, you know, men and women. It was a way that they could discuss maybe certain issues they had within their community, and the circle just offers a space where there's no hierarchy. So when you sit in circle, everyone is equal. I guess there's this knowing that each and every person in the circle possesses their own wisdom. They have their own unique perspective or their own unique experiences. So every single person's voice and share is of value. And it doesn't matter if you're the most eldest person in the village or the youngest person in the village. When you come in circle, there is this coming together of all the different perspectives, the different ages, the different genders, and bringing it into one sharing circle where everyone's voice is heard and welcome and seen. There was just so many ways that circle was used in order to create community and to create harmony within ancient civilization. And you may or may not know this, a lot of women can sometimes see that when they spend time with other women, they tend to sync their menstrual cycles together. Our menstrual cycles seem to sync up with the people that we hang around. And because we were once beings that would spend a lot of time outdoors, our menstrual cycles would even then sync up with the moon cycles. And perhaps I'll make a vlog in future on the moon cycles and the menstrual cycle and how they interlinked, because that's something that I teach women and I know a lot about. Because majority of the women would bleed around the new moon, women would typically gather around this time in moon lodges or red tents they were called, and they would bleed into the earth. And it was a time for them to kind of leave the community, leave their responsibilities, their families, and the women would gather and they would just have this time to rest and restore, which is very much needed when women have their period, because our bodies are going through this big shift where our hormones are very, very low and we're shedding the uterine lining, and it takes a big toll on our body. And women once knew that that was a time that the female body needed deep rest. And actually everyone else in the community understood that this was very much needed in order for the whole community to thrive, because they knew that women, when they bleed, they are the most powerful, because that is the time when we as women, we are most in tune with the divine. It's like the veil becomes very thin between this realm and the higher realms, and we can become an oracle and receive intuitive guidance and direct downloads from our guardians and our spirit guides. And all of the community, the rest of the community, they saw this time when the women had their period and would go to these red tents as so sacred, and they really celebrated this time when the women would gather. And then at the end of the bleed, the women would come back to the village and share all their downloads and their stories of what they received when they went into this women's circle. They were truly honored for that power and that wisdom. Even though it was like such a big thing for women to gather around their menstruation, it wasn't always just that people would gather in circle. Like, it is very common that women would gather around the moon cycles, which is what I'm doing now. And it was also really common to gather at maybe the different changes in seasons, like the equinoxes, you know, the change between spring and summer, or autumn and winter. This was a very common time when the people would gather. So you might be wondering what happened to the circle. So a lot of ancient traditions, particularly those that connected us to nature and really empowered women for their natural way of being, their cyclical rhythms, all of that has kind of become a taboo now. Women don't even like to talk about their menstrual cycle. It's something that we're often shamed about in subtle ways. We're probably the most disconnected that we've ever been to Mother Nature. And as women, we are really doing ourselves a disservice, because our power is that connection that we have to the earth, and it is our connection to our natural body's rhythm, our 28-day hormonal cycle. And when we don't honor that and we don't cherish that part of ourselves and pretend that we don't have a period and try to operate the same every single day and keep up with this hypermasculine patriarchal world, then we lose our power, our true feminine power. It doesn't come from competing with men. It comes from our direct connection to the divine, and that's by reconnecting to the earth and Mother Nature, because we are an embodiment of the earth. You know, women in particular, we are regenerative. Our bodies possess that life, death, rebirth cycle that we see in Mother Nature. Every winter, you know, all the plants, they die, and the leaves in autumn, they shed. And what happens in the spring, all the flowers, they bloom once again. And us women, we are an embodiment of that, because what can we do with our wombs? We can birth new life into the world. And there's this cycle that happens that I think as women, as a whole, as a collective, we really need to reclaim that wisdom and that cherishing of our bodies, our unique bodies, and our innate cyclical rhythm, and celebrate that once again. And that's why I think circles are really great, because they connect us to that part of ourselves that is quite lost in the Western world. You might be wondering, like, why did we stop doing circles? And it really came down to the fact that circles became unsafe. You might have heard of the burning times when women were accused of being witches, and this was a time when any woman healer, a midwife, the wise women, the herbalist, the medicine women, these kind of women, these natural healers that worked a lot with the earth's medicine and the energies, these women were typically the ones holding the space for the circle. And as I mentioned before, the woman's circle is a time for a woman to reclaim her true feminine power, which is not competing with men, it's her connection to the divine. And women's circles, they facilitate that. They allow women to connect to their bodies, to the earth, and to the divine, to that divine wisdom. And we could say that there was a certain group of people that saw that as a threat, that saw women in their power as a threat, you know, and we can see that as patriarchy, this institution that we live in today, where the woman's innate way of being is not often celebrated in our society anymore. And women are taught to suppress their hormones through the birth control pill, and to keep up with this 9-to-5 daily grind, which doesn't support our bodies. And the women have stopped gathering, and so many women today are in their masculine energy more dominantly than their feminine energy, and we're living in a very imbalanced society. The reason I believe that happened was because women's circles are so powerful. They had to stop. In order for the patriarchy to rise, they had to put an end to the woman's circle, because that was so powerful once upon a time, and it was such a vital part of ancient tribal communities. These women, these healers, these wise women, these midwives and herbalists, they were murdered, they were burnt to the stake, they were hung, they were tortured for being in their magic, being a healer, being a medicine woman, being in connection to the earth. They were killed for that. And so many women now possess this fear, you know, which is somatically in the body, in our nervous system, about stepping into our true power. And that's why a lot of women, I believe, are afraid to go back to circle, because there's this fear that, what if I'm seen in this? What if I'm seen in my magic, in my power? What if I step into this full expression of myself? And what does that mean? I'm not safe anymore, because the body remembers. You know, we might think that, oh, that was a long time ago. We might intellectualize that we're safe now, we can step into our power, but the body remembers energetically. It remembers, you know, how it was unsafe once upon a time to step into our full power. And so now when we go to do that, the body's like, no, it's not safe, self-sabotage. And we pull back, and we don't allow ourselves to tap into our healing abilities and our intuitive gifts and our psychic abilities. We're afraid to tap into that, when as women, that is our gift, that is our power. I hope this is not a little bit too woo-woo for you, but you know, if we really want to understand women's circles and why they have become a taboo now, it really goes back to that. It goes back to the fear. It goes back to the murdering of so many women around the world. And it's something that is still somatically felt within the body. With all of that said, I really encourage you, if you're even still watching this video right now, if you're curious about women's circles, know that there's a reason for that. There's an intuition, there's something calling you, and follow that intuition. I always say to women, your intuition is your powerhouse. It's your power. It is the one thing that you have that can help you to step into your truth, into alignment. It can help you to move forward in the most effortless and easiest way. And if you are being called to go to a woman's circle, I'm not saying you have to come to the Divine Feminine Circle. If you do, that would be amazing. I'd love to have you there. But maybe there's a women's circle in near where you live, in your community. And I highly encourage you, if you feel that nudge within you, if you're curious, but even if you're afraid, I really encourage you, like, just put yourself out there and give it a go. And I guarantee you're gonna love it, because you know, I was there once upon a time. I remember my first women's circle, and I was so curious about them. I kept seeing and hearing about women's circles, and I was really curious to attend, but I was afraid. I'm like, what do I expect? And honestly, once I entered the circle, I felt safe as soon as I entered. And I often hear that from women. They come into the room and they're like, I feel so safe. I feel really relaxed. And I guarantee, if you're having this intuition that you need to, you know, attend a circle, chances are you've probably done it in your past life. You've probably been in circle before. I definitely know I have, in many lifetimes before. Maybe I was even running them in my past lives. It felt very, very, very familiar once I stepped back into circle. And know that 90% of the people that attend are there by themselves. Most people are not coming with a friend. It's a space where it doesn't matter if you don't know anyone, you will have new friends, a whole circle of new friends by the end of the woman's circle. They usually last between an hour to maybe 3 hours, and they're just so much fun. And it's just so nice to connect to the feminine and see the feminine when it's actually in its healthy expression. Because so often what we see today in society is the expression of the unhealthy feminine energy, which is judgmental, and it can be comparing ourselves to other women and feeling jealous of them or competing with them. And that's a lot of what gets created through Instagram and social media. I feel that it creates this toxic environment, particularly between women, where we compare maybe our bodies to other women, and these could be even celebrities, but we start to maybe feel bad about ourselves because we don't have that thing that the girl on the other side of the post is wearing, or the way her body looks, or the money that she has, or the career that she has, or the followers that she has, whatever the thing is. Circles are really almost like the polar opposite of that. They're very radical in this day and age, because it's really about the sisterhood and coming together as women and holding each other's hands side by side, seeing a sister going through something, and even seeing yourself in each other's stories and realizing, like, oh, I'm not alone. You know, this woman's struggling with body image, and I can totally relate to that. And we often see that all of us women, we're going through the same thing. We all have the same issues and we have the same challenges. And when you come into circle, you're like, oh, I'm not alone in that. And it feels so comforting to know that you're not alone. And I think as humans, that's what so many of us are starving for, that connection, that community, to know that we're not alone. And you know, there's always support, and there's always people that are there to witness you and love you in your authentic truth. And you don't need to be anyone else but you in order to receive that. You don't need to own anything or have a certain title or look a certain way. Like, you just as you are, how you wake up in the morning, how you go to sleep at night, all of that is so welcome and so loved and so cherished. and that no part of you needs to change. So I hope you enjoyed that vlog. I know it's a little bit long. I tend to go on and on when I'm passionate about something, which clearly I am about women's circles, but I really encourage you, if you feel called, to join me at Divine Feminine Circle. I'm going to put the links below, and to join me at a live event, online or in person. And I'd love to get to know you better and to welcome you into the sisterhood. There's so much love and magic to be found there. And yeah, I hope to see you at one of my events. Until my next video, take care of yourself, and I love you so much. Mwah.